They always tell you a witness will hesitate. That they'll look at the floor, the ceiling, anywhere but the suspect. Not her. She lifted a bandaged hand, voice steady through the gauze and pain meds. "Officer," she said to the detective with the clipboard, and then she pointed. "Not past me. Not near me. Right at my chest. If you're watching, you're about to see a cop's life crack like safety glass. First the starbursts, then the whole pane. My name is Daniel Ruiz. 12 years on the job, 10 with gold stripes, no shootings, departmental commendation for a kidnapping rescue. I know the smell of a bad scene before I get there. Burnt electronics, panic sweat, the metallic ghost of blood. This one started with dryer lint and copper, wires, scorched, and a silent alarm that was just a little too silent. A boutique jeweler in Old Harbor crawled at 2:14. My partner, Casey, and I were 3 blocks out on a burglary suppression detail. "We're on it," I said. Dispatch responded crisp. Then the line hiccuped. The door looked intact. The glass spiderwebbed at the bottom left corner but held, like it didn't want the world to know it had already failed. We found the night manager face down, breathing shallow through a mouthful of dust. In the back, a vault door with a neat surgical smile from a thermal lance. Whoever cut it knew what they were doing. No saw marks, no slop. And on the polished floor, a single muddy boot print that wasn't city issue. Casey swept. I called EMS. The alarms had gone quiet. Too quiet. Any system that advanced should scream until the neighbors moved out. I clocked the panel, main board bypassed with a jumper wire and a piece of chewing gum. Amateur trick, pro execution. The night manager came to long enough to grab my sleeve. He said, "Relax, officer." His eyes rolled, and he passed out again. We canvassed. One witness, a barista cleaning machines 2 doors down, said she saw a man in a dark jacket move from the alley into a blue sedan. "He nodded to the streetlight," she said, like that meant something. I filed it and kept moving. By morning the newspapers were already calling it the Surgical 6. 6 velvet-lined tray spaces, all empty, each with a hand-lettered tag: Royal, Ayrshire, Marquise, Cushion, Oval, Pear. 40 pounds of diamonds, give or take. Nothing else touched. The timer on the display safe hadn't even hit 0. Whoever went in knew exactly which trays to pull and how long they had before patrol rolled past. Except patrol didn't. We were 3 minutes late to our own block. I wrote traffic where I should have written something felt off. Internal Affairs called me before I got my second coffee. "Just routine," Ramirez said. His smile never reaches his eyes. "Your unit pinged near Old Harbor earlier than your log shows." I told him our GPS lags sometimes, which is true when it helps and false when it doesn't. He nodded like a priest taking confession he doesn't intend to absolve. "Bring your body cam and MDT by my office." Casey hovered in my doorway. "He call you too?" I asked. She shook her head. Her freckles go pale when she's scared. "No. Dispatch wants us for the witness confirmation." That's how I ended up in the blue-gray room that smells like pencil erasers and stale coffee, with an attorney I didn't ask for in the corner and Detective Hearn doing his "I'm your friend" routine. 5 photos on the table, 2 men with shaved heads, 1 with a beard like a chain-link fence, and 2 cops in uniform. I blinked. Hearn saw it and kept his voice mild. "We included fillers to test reliability. She's been good so far." "You put officers in a suspect array?" "Not officers," he said, turning a page on the clipboard so the paper whispered. "Uniforms. Context matters to trauma recall." It was a line. I've used it myself. I kept my face smooth. Then they brought her in. The barista, not the manager. The manager was in ICU fighting a brain bleed. She walked like both feet hurt, like she'd run when she shouldn't have and stayed when she should have run. She looked at the photos and shook her head. "No. Not pictures." Her eyes flicked to the glass, the mirror that isn't a mirror. "He's here." Hearn played concerned. "In the building." "In this room," she said. "Officer." She pointed at me, the way you point at a fly you're tired of swatting. Hearn didn't look surprised. My ears roared anyway. Ramirez's face at the glass was unreadable. My attorney, whose name I still didn't know, uncapped his pen but didn't write. "You're sure?" Hearn asked gently. "She told me," the barista said, still looking at me. "When he came in last week, asking about the camera out front. He said, 'I'm Officer Ruiz. We've had some smash and grabs. Let me see your angles so I can keep you safe.'" He smiled. Same smile. Same voice. I haven't asked a civilian to show me their CCTV angles in months. Not without a call for service. Not without paperwork. I felt my mouth move. "Ma'am, when did—" "She brought him iced coffee," Hearn cut in, like he was rescuing her from me. "He paid cash and left with a napkin he'd written notes on. She remembers because she thought it was sweet. Cops don't usually write things down on napkins. I do when the form in the app won't load. I keep them in my pocket until they crumble." My hands went to my cargo pocket on instinct and stopped halfway, because that's what guilty hands do in interrogation videos. The attorney finally spoke. "Detective Hearn, my client is here voluntarily and has cooperated fully. We're going to step out." "We're not detaining him," Hearn said pleasantly. "We're just clarifying. Then we'll clarify after I speak with my client." We stepped into the hall. Ramirez peeled off the glass like he'd been suctioned to it. "Sergeant Ruiz," he said, eyebrows raised a millimeter. "Busy week." "Someone used my name," I said. "It came out too quick." He smiled without smiling. "Did they use your radio too? Because the dispatch tape from Tuesday night includes a unit identifying as 3 Adam 5, 2 minutes before you key up. That's your call sign. I don't loan radios. I don't forget them." "Fake radio," I said. "Scanner app with a voice mod. Kids can download one in 30 seconds. "Kids," he repeated, like he was tasting the word for poison. "Bring me your cam, your MDT, and your personal phone." "Voluntary, of course." "Of course," I said. The attorney put a restraining hand near my elbow that never quite touched me. That was the first time I realized I didn't know who hired him. When I got back to my locker, the smell hit first. Citrus cleaner, too strong. The padlock hung open. I never leave it open. Inside, my spare uniform folded too neatly, my duty boots aligned like a photograph, and tucked into the right boot, something that didn't belong. A white napkin with my messy block letters. Front cam wide, alley cam blind 2 to 220. Panel in back office. Night manager alone 2/th. My handwriting. My pattern of arrows and underlines. I stared until the ink swam. The attorney reached past me with a pen he'd never use and lifted the napkin by a corner like it might bite. "We need to go," he whispered. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered because cops answer. A man's voice, pleasant, like a maitre d'. "Sergeant Ruiz. Next time I do you a favor," he said, "say thank you." "Who is this?" "You're welcome," he said. "Check your theater tickets." "Oh, and the barista? She's a terrible liar when she's sober. Luckily, she likes to close with bourbon." The line went dead. I looked at my calendar. Saturday, 1900 hours, Fox Pavilion, The Last Waltz, 2 tickets I did not buy. The confirmation number under the event title had 6 digits. The last 4 matched the case number I'd written on my napkin at the scene. Casey texted, "Ramirez just pulled me. Where are you?" I typed back, "Locker room." And then I watched 3 uniforms walk in, 2 I knew and 1 I didn't, with a brown paper bag and a form on a clipboard that said, "Consent to search." The one I didn't know smiled the way men smile when they've already inventoried your life. "Sergeant Ruiz," he said. "Mind if we take a look?" The young one with the clipboard had the eager posture of a rookie who thinks procedure is a shield. "Just a quick look," he said, tapping the consent form like it was a magic trick. The bagman unfolded a fresh evidence sack. The third officer stood in the doorway, not looking at me, which meant he was watching everything else. The attorney stepped in. "No consent," he said, easy as ordering coffee. "If you have a warrant, serve it. If you don't, my client is leaving." "We can secure the scene," the doorway cop said. "Exigent risk of destruction." "This is a locker," the attorney said. "With a padlock." That you've already opened. He tilted his head at my hanging lock. You'll want to explain that chain of custody later. The rookie reddened. The bagman didn't. He wrote on his clipboard, small tidy letters. I recognized the handwriting. Not the letters, the attitude. The attitude of a man who never loses at paper. Fine, the doorway cop said. He chewed his inner cheek, calculating. We'll hold the locker. Sergeant, you're not to touch it. I'm not touching anything, I said. Not even the floor. We walked. Down the corridor that smells like bleach and old leather, past a corkboard with a flyer about stress leaves that everyone ignores. The attorney guided me to an empty interview room and shut the door. He locked it. He shouldn't have been able to lock it. He turned, finally made eye contact. Gray eyes. No tells. Name, I said. Evan, he said. Your brother hired me. I don't have a brother. You do today. He slid a card across the table. Evan Price, counselor at law. No firm, no address. A number that felt like it would ring to a room with no windows. Who called you? I asked. The same man who bought your concert tickets. I sat. The chair wobbled on a leg that had been kicked one too many times. Why? Evan leaned forward, elbows on the table, jury summation posture. Because you're useful to him alive and outside a holding cell. At least for now. Who is he? Someone who knows you can't be bought, he said, like that was a compliment and not a threat. Which means you can be framed. Casey knocked once and opened without waiting. She looked like she'd run up the stairs. Ramirez shadowed her shoulder, hands behind his back as if they were already cuffed. He nodded at Evan, at me. Phones, Ramirez said. Body cam. MDT. His tone had no heat. Admin polite. Evan slid a manila envelope from his briefcase. They're packaged. My client will deliver them, but I'll escort and maintain chain. Ramirez almost smiled. You practicing to be quartermaster now, counselor? I practice keeping my clients out of prison, Evan said. It's a full-contact sport in this zip code. A muscle in Ramirez's jaw ticked. He turned to me. Your cam shows a 7-minute dead zone between 2:06 and 2:13. That's your approach window. Cam cut out in the alley, I said. Interference. We checked the last 5 months of your uploads, he said. No interference. Not once. Because I don't walk under a nest of power lines every night. Funny thing, he said, almost conversational. The jeweler's alley has overhead lines. They've been there for 30 years. I remembered the hum in my teeth when we turned the corner, the way the radio crackled, that split second of static. Then what do you want me to say? I asked. The world behaved like the world. We found a napkin in your boot, he said. With your handwriting. Someone was in my locker. He nodded like we'd reached the center of the maze together. And someone used your call sign on the air. And someone visited a coffee shop and used your name. And someone called dispatch, sounded a lot like you. He tapped his temple. You feel the pattern, Sergeant? That's not just framing. That's rehearsal. Evan held up a palm. Detective, he said, using the wrong rank on purpose. We're happy to cooperate. But you're not questioning my client without me, and he's not answering open-ended philosophy prompts. Ramirez glanced at Casey. Your partner's ride-alongs, he said. 2 last month. We're pulling the waivers. Casey's freckles were bone white. Those kids never touched the radio, she said. They were sweet. One puked when he saw a raccoon. Ramirez nodded, not disagreeing, not agreeing. He stepped out, leaving the air colder. Casey shut the door with her foot. I'm sorry, she said immediately, words spilling. I told him about the interference. I told him we were in the alley at 2:08, not 2:11, that the alarm lagged, that. It's okay, I said. If we're clean, truth helps. She shook her head. You're not getting it. The barista, Hearn says she ID'd you on a voice lineup. Voice lineup. They had her listen to recordings. Officers reading Miranda, officers calling in plates, officers buying coffee. Buying coffee. Casey swallowed. You. From last week. Large iced, 2 Splenda, I'm paying cash. I don't drink iced coffee. I hate Splenda. When did I order that? You didn't. But your voice did. Evan's pen scratched once on his legal pad. Deep fake, he said, like he was ordering a sandwich. Good one. Good enough to fool casual ears. Casual? I asked. Trauma ears, he said. People hear what the moment needs. And Hearn is feeding her what the moment needs. I closed my eyes for a second, just long enough to see the jewelry floor again, the boot print, the perfect cut in the vault. It wasn't random. It was choreography. And I was on beat without knowing the song. Tickets, I said. I pulled up my email on the department MDT before Evan could protest. The confirmation sat there like a toothache. 2 seats. Row H, center. Purchased from an account with my name and my personal Gmail. Evan leaned over my shoulder. Look at the payment method. Cash at box office, I said. With a voucher. Voucher number matches your case file, he said. They've got their fingers in records. Who? Casey asked. Someone who nods at streetlights, I said, and told her what the barista had said. Casey frowned. Streetlight. In the canvas, I said. She said the guy nodded to the streetlight. Casey stared at the wall, then at me. The new smart poles. We installed them downtown 2 months back. LED poles with sensors and city Wi-Fi. Real-time gunshot detection, camera pods, traffic counters, the works. The vendor hosted the data in a cloud nobody in our IT could spell. I felt my molars ache again. If someone's got access to the pole data, I said, they've got my patrol routes. They know when my cam drops. They know where the dead spots are. They know when the shop's alley goes dark to save power. Evan capped his pen. And they know when IA pings your unit, he said. Because they see the GPS at the network layer and mirror it. Casey's phone buzzed. She read it and didn't breathe for a count of 3. Hearn has a warrant, she said softly. Locker. Squad car. Your apartment. Evan stood. We're leaving, he said. Where? I asked. To your apartment, he said. Before Hearn does. That's not how warrants work, Casey said. True, he said. But that's how warnings work. We moved. Parking lot heat rising off blacktop, a gull screaming like a siren that doesn't end. Evan drove a nondescript gray sedan that could have been any federal pool car or a rental bought with cash. He drove like he'd memorized the timing on every light. Casey followed in her unit, windows down, radio turned low. At my building, 3rd floor walk up, the hallway smelled like spilled curry and laundry steam. My door was closed. The deadbolt was turned. The hair I tape at the top jam when I'm paranoid, my one superstition, was still in place. I unlocked. Inside, the air had that lemon cleaner note again. Evan raised a hand. Don't touch lights. We stood in the dim. My couch was too straight. The stack of mail too square. On the coffee table, a white napkin, placed like a centerpiece. Evan leaned over it. No writing. Just a neat dot of oil in the corner like a thumb had pressed there. He smiled without mirth. They want you to look for napkins now, he said. They want you to tremble at paper. The bathroom fan hummed, on a timer I never use. I pushed open the door. Steamless air. Mirror clean. And on the counter, behind my shaving kit, a small black rectangle no bigger than a coin. It had slid from the light fixture, caught in the corner molding. Camera, Casey whispered. I reached, then stopped. Evan shook his head. He took a photo, then used a business card to flip the device into a clean bag. He held it to the bathroom window. The lens winked. Am I bugged? I asked. Evan's phone chimed. No caller ID. He answered, put it on speaker. You made good time, the maitre d' voice said. Cheerful. Check the freezer. I walked to the kitchen. Opened the freezer. Frosted boxes, a chipped ice tray, a Ziploc I didn't recognize. Inside, a radio mic, department issue, wired to a tiny transmitter. I set it down very carefully, like a grenade that had already decided it liked me. They're not just framing you, the voice said through the phone. They're rehearsing you, teaching you your marks. Who are you? I asked the empty air. And what favor did you do me? Silence, then a rustle. I kept a witness alive who would have died, he said. And I made sure she pointed at you. Why? So you'd stop being a cop, he said pleasantly. And start being a problem. The line went dead. Evan didn't move for a moment, like he was memorizing the silence. Casey leaned against my counter, arms folded, jaw tight. The transmitter sat on my freezer shelf humming faintly, a piece of evidence I couldn't decide whether to smash or cradle. He just admitted it, I said. He planted the barista. He staged the ID. Evan shook his head. No. He admitted nothing. He implied everything. And implication doesn't survive court. Casey exhaled hard through her nose. This is insane. Why target you? Of all people. I almost laughed. Why not me? 12 years spotless, a reputation for being too clean for politics, the one guy who refuses free hockey tickets from a bail bondsman. If you want to discredit a department, you don't frame the already crooked. You frame the one people trust. Evan slipped the transmitter into another evidence bag, neat as a lab tech. Rule 1, he said. You're not paranoid if someone actually is inside your walls. I rubbed my temples. The weight of everything, the napkins, the fake coffee order, the witness pointing, pressed like a migraine that had hands. So what's the play? The play, Evan said, is to stay ahead of the script. Script. Casey repeated. They're staging you like a character, he said. You've already been cast, officer turned thief. They're building continuity. You notice how the props keep repeating? Napkins, coffee orders, your call sign. They're world building. That's not a script, I said. That's obsession. Evan smiled slightly. Obsession and storytelling are cousins. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Against better judgment, I answered. A recording played, my own voice, flat and official. Dispatch, 3 Adam 5, show me code 6, Old Harbor, 0214 hours. Then static, then laughter, someone else's, soft and close to the mic click. They've got my voice nailed, I said. Not nailed, Evan corrected. Mirrored. Which means somewhere there's an original track they sampled. Casey frowned. Body cams. Roll calls. Hell, half the time we record training modules in our own voices. They had to get to the source, I said. Internal access. Evan tapped his bag. And if it's internal, your real danger isn't prison. It's being silenced before you can prove the frame. A knock at the door froze all of us. 3 raps, deliberate. Evan motioned me back, slid to the peephole. He mouthed, Hearn. Casey whispered, he's early. Evan straightened his tie, unlocked the door, swung it open 3 inches. Detective, he said smoothly. Hearn's voice was patient, practiced. We have a warrant. Step aside. I glimpsed the paper raised just high enough to look official. Casey tensed beside me. Signed by whom? Evan asked. Judge Milner. Evan extended a hand. Let me see it. Hearn's shadow shifted. Not your role, counselor. Step aside. Not without sight of the signature. A pause. Long enough to taste tension in the drywall. Finally, the edge of the paper slid into view. Evan scanned, smiled thin. Fascinating penmanship, he said. Judge Milner retired 6 months ago. Silence outside. Then retreating footsteps, unhurried. Evan closed the door, set the bolt. Fake warrant, Casey whispered. Prop, Evan corrected. Part of the show. My pulse hammered. If they can walk up with paper and badges, what's to stop them from bagging me off the street? Nothing, Evan said. Except that someone wants you alive long enough to dance. I sat heavily. And while I dance, diamonds vanish, witnesses lie, and my name sinks. Casey crouched across from me. Then we find the pattern. Diamonds, napkins, coffee. What ties them? I thought back to the crime scene. 6 trays, each labeled with a cut. Royal, Ayrshire, Marquise, Cushion, Oval, Pear. 6 shapes, missing. 6 napkins. 6 props. 6, I said. Always 6. Evan's pen scratched. Explain. 6 trays. 6 napkins. 6 photos in the lineup. They slipped 2 uniforms, 3 randoms, plus 1 blank. 6. Casey's eyes widened. The barista said she saw 1 man. Blue sedan. But she described him with 6 details. Dark jacket, baseball cap, limp on the right, gloves, scar on cheek, glasses. No one wears all that at once. They're fragmenting him, I realized. Building a suspect out of pieces. Then pasting them on me. Evan nodded. Continuity. I wanted to punch a wall, but the walls already had ears. So what? I wait for them to script Act 2. Evan leaned close. Or you improvise. Break their rhythm. Force them to reveal who's in the writer's room. How? Casey glanced at the transmitter bagged on the counter. Feed them a line. The idea landed like a loaded gun on the table. Risky. Dangerous. But maybe the only way to flush them. Evan considered. If you plant false continuity, they'll run with it. And when they do, we follow the trail. What kind of line? I asked. He smiled without humor. Something only Daniel Ruiz would know. But something you've never said out loud before. Casey bit her lip. Like a code phrase. From training. From a case you kept quiet. Memory flickered. A warehouse fire, my rookie year. A suspect whispered, Rook takes Bishop, just before he died. Nobody ever filed it. I carried it like a splinter. I said it softly now. Rook takes Bishop. Evan's eyes gleamed. Perfect. He powered up the transmitter just long enough to catch the phrase, then killed it again. Now we wait, he said. We didn't wait long. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Text message. No ID. Just, Rook takes Bishop. Friday. Dock 6. 0200. Casey's hand trembled as she held the screen. They bought it. Evan folded the napkin bag, smoothed his tie. Congratulations, Sergeant. You've just been cast in your own next scene. I stared at the glowing words, pulse loud in my ears. Whoever had hijacked my voice, my name, my life, was waiting at Dock 6. And they expected me to show. Friday couldn't come slow enough. Each hour stretched, heavy with the knowledge that someone had my voice in their pocket and my name on their script. Dock 6 was a graveyard of rusted shipping containers and gull droppings, a place the city forgot after the rail lines died. Whoever set that meeting knew it was empty after midnight, except for rats and men who liked shadows. Casey wanted to alert organized crime. Evan vetoed it. Bring official eyes. They'll stage another performance, he said. You need them unscripted. Unscripted at 2 a.m. on a dock, Casey muttered. Sounds like a eulogy waiting to happen. I cleaned my sidearm twice that night, not because I expected to fire it, but because ritual kept my hand steady. Around 0100, Evan pulled up in his gray sedan, trunk carrying more gear than a defense lawyer should own. 2 handheld recorders, a jammer that looked military, and a pair of tiny earpieces. Insurance, he said, distributing them. They'll try to control the narrative. Our job is to document the raw cut. We parked 3 blocks out, approached on foot. The air smelled of salt, tar, and diesel ghosts. Dock 6 loomed ahead, cranes frozen like dinosaurs mid-feast. A single sodium lamp buzzed at the far end, throwing everything else into theatrical darkness. Casey whispered, You feel like we're walking into an audition? That's the point, Evan said. They expect Ruiz to hit his mark. My phone vibrated. New message. Step into the light. Alone. I looked at Casey. Stay back. Not a chance. Evan touched her arm. If they expect him alone, let him. You'll cover. I walked forward, boots crunching on gravel, every nerve a tuning fork. The sodium lamp painted a hard circle. I stepped in. Applause. Soft. Deliberate. A man emerged from between containers. Tall, lean, wearing a navy coat too fine for this dock. His face was ordinary, the kind you forget even while looking at it. "Sergeant Ruiz," he said, like greeting an old colleague. "Welcome to rehearsal." "You're the voice," I said. He smiled faintly. "One of them. Why frame me?" "Because stories need heroes, Daniel. And heroes need betrayal to be interesting." I clenched my fists. "You stole diamonds, planted evidence, hijacked my name." He tilted his head. "Did I? Or did the story tell itself, once we set the stage? The napkin in your boot, the coffee order, the witness pointing, it wasn't false. It was continuity. You lived it because we wrote it, and the audience believed it." "What audience?" He gestured to the shadows. Another figure stepped out, camera on a gimbal, lens glinting. Filming. Behind him, a third man with headphones, monitoring sound. "You're filming this?" "Not just this," the man said. "Everything. Since Old Harbor. Since before. You're the season's centerpiece." I felt sick. Season. You think this city's crime stories are random? Smash and grabs, insider heists, corrupt cop busts? No, Daniel. They're serialized. For investors who like their drama bleeding edge. Real stakes. Real cops. Real consequences. Casey's voice hissed in my earpiece. "2 more at your 10 o'clock. I kept my face steady. "So I'm your villain." "Not villain. Protagonist in a fall from grace arc." He spread his hands. "But every protagonist deserves a chance to flip the script. That's why we're here." "What kind of chance?" "Join us." The words felt surreal in the salt air. "You want me in your production?" "You already are," he said softly. "But you can play knowingly. Help us craft the story, instead of being framed by it. Control your arc. And if I say no—" He nodded to the cameraman. The lens zoomed closer. "Then you continue as written. Disgraced officer. Evidence mounts. Trial filmed. Conviction delivered. Investors love courtroom finales." The choice hung like a guillotine. Behind my ribs, my pulse pounded. Casey whispered in my ear, "Say yes. Stall." I looked the man dead in the eye. "What's my role?" His smile widened. "The rogue cop who discovers the truth. You'll uncover the network, expose our pawns, climb the ladder. But you'll never reach the top. That's the tragedy. Heroes don't get happy endings." I said, "Maybe this one does." He chuckled. "Improvisation. I like it." He turned, signaling. One of the armed shadows tossed a small package at my feet. Wrapped in brown paper, taped tight. "Your prop," he said. "Stage 2 begins tomorrow. Deliver that to Locker 112 at Central Station. Don't open it. Cameras will know if you do. Do this, and your arc continues. And if I refuse, then we cut you." He said it like trimming film. He stepped back into shadow. The cameraman followed, lens never leaving me. The sodium lamp flickered, and then I was alone with the package. Casey sprinted up, gun drawn, breath ragged. "What the hell was that?" "An audition," I said. I bent, picked up the package. It weighed heavy, maybe a pound, solid. Evan joined, calm despite his eyes darting. "They gave you Act 2. Which means you're not disposable. Yet." I looked at the package, then at them. Locker 112. "Tomorrow," Evan said. "Then tomorrow we break into our own story." We left the dock. My phone buzzed again. A photo this time, me under the sodium lamp, package at my feet. The caption, "Perfect take." I didn't sleep. By dawn, Doc 6 still smelled on my clothes. I sat in my kitchen with the package on the table, staring. Somewhere, cameras were still rolling. Somewhere, investors were already watching. And I had until tomorrow to decide whether to play along or burn the script to the ground. By morning the package sat on my table like a live opinion. Brown paper. Cheap tape. Edges too clean for real life, too square for coincidence. I made coffee and didn't drink it. Casey watched it like it might twitch. Evan showed up with a pizza box he didn't open and a black bag that hummed when he set it down. You realize if we open it and they're watching, we burn the Ark, he said, matter of fact. We aren't opening it, I said. We're looking inside. He smiled and lifted the lid on the pizza box. Inside, a flat slab of lead and a portable X-ray scanner that could have come from a dentist's office if dentists worked in alleys. He plugged it into a battery pack, slid the lead under the package, set the scanner on top. Stay still, he said. And think boring thoughts. The image bloomed on his tablet, white bones in a brown body. Not bones. A metal rectangle the size of a wallet, coils, a thin round disc like a coin battery, a chipboard. A second shape, a keycard with a familiar notch. Transit locker access. Beside it, something like a thumb drive. And on the left seam, 2 circles that looked like watch batteries kissing a glass capsule. Mercury tilt, Evan said. You rotate this more than a few degrees, it closes the circuit, phone home. Maybe worse. Explosive? Casey asked. Evan shook his head. No fragmentation housing. Not their style. They want a bang in your life, not in your apartment. More likely a sensor that pings a watcher if the package is moved wrong. I stared at the keycard. They want me to deliver a key that opens a locker that holds. What? Another prop. Nested boxes. Classic, Evan said. Also, notice the thumb drive. That's bait. You open that and they own your machine. Then we don't open anything, I said. We tag. Evan pulled out a small vial of clear gel and a packet of glitter so fine it looked like fog. Lumine dye with microtags. Sticks to skin, fabric, conscience. Under UV it sings. Casey arched an eyebrow. You carry that because... My clients attract messy situations, he said. And I like breadcrumbs. We worked like burglars who loved a lab. Evan slid the package into a sleeve that matched the paper grain, added an equal weight slab to compensate for the sleeve's mass. He spritzed the outside with a barest veil of dye, invisible in normal light, then used a syringe to inject a whisper of gel through the tape seam, just enough to kiss whatever hand opened it. He pressed a wafer-thin tracker to the underside, the kind that piggybacks on public Wi-Fi like a Remora. He finished by dotting the corners with a barely there pattern, our own continuity mark. If they filmed, they'd record our signature. If they noticed, we'd know who noticed. Central Station at noon is a human river. At 0500 it's an echo chamber. We chose 0455, when the night shift yawns and the morning people haven't remembered their names. Evan parked 2 blocks away. Casey went in first, ball cap, hoodie, her badge nowhere near the light. I followed, package cradled like I was just a man trying not to drop his breakfast. Locker 112 sat in a corridor that smelled like metal and gum. Transit uses brushed steel boxes with electronic locks and a camera that blinks to pretend it helps. I held my breath, slid the keycard from the package without tipping it, passed it to Casey. She slid it into the slot. Green. The door popped like a swallow. Inside, a second brown paper package, identical twins. Under it, a folded note. I didn't touch the note with fingers. I used the corner of my shirt to flip it open. Delivery makes the man. Take the twin. Leave the first. Don't peek. Smile for the audience. I swallowed bile. Casey inclined her head. I set our package inside, lifted the twin with the same angle, same grip, same breath. Closed the door. The camera blinked at me like it understood lies. Back outside, Evan slid into our rhythm without speaking. He slipped the twin into his humming bag. Same weight, he said. Scan later. We didn't have to wait. The tracker on the first package pinged. Locker 112 chirped on Evan's screen like a heartbeat. Then, at 0533, movement. A blue dot left the station on a slow arc. North exit, Casey said, checking the station map in her head. The one with the broken camera. We split. Casey went to tail on foot. I took the street, cut 2 blocks to intercept. Evan drove, his sedan drifting with the traffic like a fish mimicking current. The dot moved to a plaza where the city's newest pride stood gleaming, the Urban Lighting Initiative headquarters. 5 stories of glass and brushed aluminum, a lobby full of smart poles sliced open like art to show their guts. The blue dot stopped there, then blinked out. Tracker lost Wi-Fi, Evan said. Building's got a shield. Of course it does, I said. Casey's voice in my ear was tight. Custodian. Orange vest. Pushed a mop bucket out of staff only, went straight to the locker, swapped, walked. Hands like he plays piano. And he nodded at the lobby pole. He knows the language, I said. We need inside. Building's closed, Casey said. Opens at 8 to tours. Security guards are statues until 7. Evan tapped the wheel. I can get us inside. How? I asked. He smiled the way men smile when they shouldn't. By being boring. At 0615, a janitorial supply van pulled up to the loading bay. Evan had found the uniform shirts in his trunk, gray with a stitched patch that said Riverside Cleaning. Where he collected these things I didn't ask. He gave me a shirt. Casey took one and rolled her sleeves. We loaded a dolly with folded drop cloths and a coil of hose. We looked like a team called in to fix a spill that City Hall didn't want to smell. The bay door buzzed. The guard barely looked up from his phone. Evan signed a clipboard that said visitor log in a font that tried too hard. We pushed the dolly inside. The building hummed with efficient silence, lights waking up one by one like a sunrise on a timer. The smart pole exhibit glittered through glass, cross-sections of cabling, RF modules, camera pods labeled with placards about safety and community. Locker room, Evan murmured. Where would a custodian go? Basement, Casey said. Service corridor. The elevator chirped obediently. Basement. The corridors were cement and paint, the air cool and recirculated. We passed a laundry room, a tool cage, a door marked data. It had a badge reader and a camera that looked at us like a judge. 2 doors down, a room marked janitorial supply. Inside, mops, bleach, a clock-in terminal, and a pair of orange vests hanging on hooks. One wet, darkened at the shoulders. Casey touched the fabric. Sweat pattern. Someone worked hard. Evan snapped photos like a tourist who loved utility closets. Then he crouched, peered under the counter, and pulled out a small black case. He opened it. Not chemicals. Not tools. A gimbal. A camera nestled in foam. The same model from the dock. He didn't grin. He looked sad. They store the show where they wash the floors. Check the dye, I said. He clicked on a small UV flashlight and swept the counter, the door handle, the vest. The room sang. The dye lit up in fingerprints and smears, constellations across the steel, streaks on the closet door, a palm print on the handle at shoulder height like someone pushed through in a hurry. Our gel tagged him, Casey whispered. He brought the package here. The door marked data opened down the hall. A man in a navy coat stepped out, coat too fine, face ordinary as $1. The one from the dock. He didn't look surprised. He looked amused. Custodians, he said. Our world runs on them. Evan straightened slowly. We're lost, he said, channeling board contractor. Spill on 3. Supervisor said basement sink. Of course, the man said. His eyes flicked to the gimbal in Evan's hand. The corner of his mouth twitched. Careful with that. It's fragile. He walked by, his shoulder brushing the frame. He smelled like clean paper. He didn't look into the closet. He didn't need to. His nod at the wall camera was microscopic. The lens blinked red, then green, then dead. My earpiece hissed with static. Evan's jammer hummed a fraction louder. The man's smile cooled. You're off book, he said, and for the first time his voice lost the maitre d' warmth. He turned his head slightly, as if to listen to someone we couldn't hear. We're improvising. Casey stepped between him and the hall. What's in the locker? She said. In our package. Continuity, he said. Proof you're who you say you are. And who do I say I am? I asked. He looked at me like I had disappointed him by asking. A man willing to trade truth for control. Try again, I said. I'm a cop. Not for long, he said gently. Locker 112 will teach you that. He moved past us, not hurried, not slow. The badge reader on Data kissed his card and the door whispered open. Inside, racks of equipment glowed. Screens showed grid overlays of the city, dots moving along routes, units, I realized, patrol cars, me. One screen showed a paused frame, the sodium light at Dock 6, me standing in the circle, package at my feet. The caption, "Perfect take." I stepped forward in spite of myself. He blocked the doorway with an angle of his body that said we were done, and smiled with all his teeth this time. "You think public cameras keep you safe," he said. "Ours are better. They tell stories." Evan's UV light caught the edge of a file box under the table, a tiny glow where dye had kissed cardboard. He didn't reach. He didn't need to. He'd memorized the label. The man tilted his head, listening again. "Act 2 starts in 20 minutes, he said. "You should hurry, Sergeant. It's a long walk back to your station when you don't wear a uniform anymore." A call hit my phone before I could answer. From Ramirez. I didn't pick up. He texted instead. "Turn on your TV." "What now?" Casey whispered. We left the basement quiet as confession. In the lobby, a big screen hung tasting the morning. Evan lifted the remote off a receptionist's desk like he owned it, flipped to a local channel. The Chiron ran a breath ahead of the anchor's face. Breaking. Internal Affairs serves warrants in officer theft investigation. B-roll looped, our station, Ramirez at a podium, Hearn off his shoulder like a Greek chorus. The anchor's voice was lacquered. Sources say a decorated sergeant is at the center of a diamond heist ring. They rolled a still. Under the sodium lamp. The package mid-air, as if tossed. The caption at the bottom, a joke without laughter. "Officer of the Year." Evan lowered the remote. He didn't say anything for a beat. Neither did I. Casey did. "They want you to run," she said. "I'm not running," I said, though every tendon wanted to sprint. "I'm working." Evan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered, speaker on. "Rook takes Bishop," the pleasant voice said. "Act 2, the locker, your badge, a choice." "What choice?" I asked. "The same choice as every hero," he said. "Tell the truth and lose. Or lie and win." The line clicked, and in the reflection of the smart pole's glass, I saw our faces, 3 people who had walked straight into the writer's room and found mirrors instead of walls. The cathedral had burned into the city's memory, but by the time the smoke cleared, so had the lies. Ramirez's stream forced daylight where their edits thrived. Reporters tore into urban lux, into contracts, into shell companies. Every micro-etched stone we turned in became another nail in their stage. IA had no choice but to back off. They didn't apologize, not their style, but the warrant vanished like smoke on wind. The coat man, though, he didn't vanish. He dissolved. His crew scattered, cameras smashed, but no body ever booked, no name on paper. Some whispered he was a contractor, some said government black, others said he was the city itself wearing a smile. All I knew was he'd touched me with dye that night. And no matter how he washed, I'd seen him glow. Casey got reassigned, her choice. She said she needed a clean beat, one without scripts running under the pavement. We still text, short bursts, but she doesn't say much. Silence is safer sometimes. Evan. He never left. He claimed his retainer covered the rest of my life now. He called it continuity insurance. He still carries that humming bag, still scribbles in notebooks, still looks at the city like it's both a crime scene and a stage play. I think part of him misses the performance. And me, I wear the badge again. Not lighter. Not heavier. Different. People look at me with suspicion, sometimes with awe. Depends which cut of the story they've seen. I stopped trying to correct them. Better to do the work. The badge doesn't need applause. But some nights, when the rain streaks my windshield and the smart poles hum too perfectly in sync, I swear I hear his voice in the static. Heroes don't get happy endings, Sergeant. They get sequels. Maybe he's right. Maybe there's another season waiting. But if there is, I'm ready. Because this time, I'm not just a character in their story. I'm the one writing it.